Hello and welcome back to another segment of What's Your Story on Empower Media TV. My name is Lis Perez, and boy, do we have a special treat for you all. For those who are fascinated with love and relationships, get excited to meet our next guest. Laura Smilski is a love and dating coach who absolutely loves helping women find real love. She has had her own struggles with finding a true relationship, but she has learned to trust the journey that she is on. At only 31 years old, her father committed suicide, and because of this trauma, Laura grew up not knowing what a healthy relationship looked like. As with many of us, and I know a lot of you can relate, Laura has suffered through many struggles with self-esteem, which then continued through her love life. It was at 27 years old, actually, when Laura suffered through an unexpected breakup and had an aha moment that changed her life. This breakup allowed her to see that she was going down a deep, dark path of depression and anxiety, and she realized what was wrong. She also has a degree on health coaching from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and she has her yin yoga certification training. Everything ties into the emotional and inner healing of oneself. Laura believes that when you truly accept yourself and learn to love yourself, your true relationships will follow. Keep on watching this week's segment on What's Your Story to hear more about the journey Laura has had to face and the empowering message she has to share. I'm Lis Perez. Hey, Laura.
Hi,
How's it
Lis.
going? Thank you for coming to EMTV to chat with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, love and dating coach.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your story behind that?
My story. You want the full story of everything?
I've heard it
from the beginning.
It ties into everything, so yes.
From details from your introduction, which was great. You hit the most important parts that got me here, but yeah, I can basically start with my childhood and my upbringing, because I believe that is where everything starts for us anyways. So as you mentioned in my bio, when I was 3, so my father was 31, and I was 3, my little sister was 2 weeks old, and my dad committed suicide. And
just unexpected. You didn't know.
It's funny because he actually had an appointment that day to see a psychologist.
Oh, really?
And we learned about that detail later on when we were older. My mom told us when my sister and I started having similar symptoms of depression and anxiety. She told us to go and get help because we're not exactly sure if it was shame or guilt or something like that, but I mean, however many 35 years ago, it wasn't spoken about, and now there's still a huge stigma around depression, anxiety, and mental illness.
Okay, yes, yeah.
So we kind of have a feeling it had something to do with that. So, but it was very unexpected,
and
right?
maybe not being able to provide for the family properly.
I don't know. I mean, he worked, and he sort of did everything he was supposed to do for his family. But I think just underneath there was a lot of emotions and not having tools to deal with difficulties that he was having. And then you add in the shame of actually having that problem and feeling like you don't have an outlet for it, and people are going to judge you or they're not going to understand you. Right. It just makes it all worse. So my mom sort of had some idea that things were not quite right. He wasn't happy. Right. But no idea that anything
and she knew
like...
she had that appointment, that he had that appointment?
Yeah. But as deep as it went, the family just didn't know at all. So that traumatic experience with me being so young and my little sister being so young and my mom, the three of us, just sort of shifted the direction of all of our lives. And growing up then, it was my mom's focus to provide for my sister and I, and to, create as solid as a foundation as she possibly could, having something like that happen. So after that, growing up, my sister and I didn't have counseling after that. My mom did. Okay. But I started, I don't know, probably in elementary school becoming, you know, I liked boys. You have little crushes in elementary school, and you have these crushes, and you see your friends, and, you know, then this boy likes her, and the other boy likes her, but I was always very insecure around boys in school that I liked or that I had a crush on, right? Up until I was, I don't even know how old, well, let's see here, 30, I couldn't make steady eye contact with a man that I was attracted to, or a boy in school, right? I couldn't speak to them. I was super shy. Yeah. And it was low self-esteem, right? It was like,
oh, what do you know? So me too.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
And not growing up with a lot of men. I mean, I have family, but I didn't have a steady male figure at home. So I didn't learn how to relate to men, how to talk to them, and how to have confidence around them. So that kind of followed me for a very long time. In high school, it was tough. I think I was 16 when I had my first boyfriend. Yeah. And then when I was 17, I actually got my first real relationship, and I remember oh my gosh, over the moon. That was it. I didn't need anything else in my life. I didn't care about anything. Yeah. It was this is it. This is what I've been waiting. That's what I've been waiting for so long. So, I mean, of course I made that the most important thing in my life for a long time. Yeah. And that relationship actually lasted almost 6 years. Wow. Which at that age was pretty good, but I think part of it had to do with my desperation to hang on to it. And then that didn't work out, but it was okay. So then, that was in my early 20s. So then all through my early 20s, I just kind of did the party thing, still really did not have confidence. I had really bad acne. My skin was really bad, so that didn't help things. And then when I was 27, I think I was 26 maybe when I met my that serious relationship. Yeah. We worked together, and we dated long distance for a year. He lived in Edmonton, and then we decided to move in together, so I decided to move up to Edmonton because his job was better and whatever. We just decided to do that. So I moved up to Edmonton, and I became really depressed, super, super depressed. I gained a lot of weight. I gained probably about 20 pounds in 4 months.
In 4 months.
It was bad.
Because you felt alone?
Yeah.
Did you have any family in Edmonton?
I had family. I wasn't really close with them. Yeah. I had lived in Edmonton before with my first boyfriend.
Okay, I see.
And then when I moved up there the second time, I wasn't close with anybody up there. I didn't have any friends up there. So it literally was just me and...
New girl, new town.
Yeah, for sure. So loneliness was a huge part. I had left all of my friends and family in Calgary. My sister lived in Calgary, and I had a really good friend base, but I left it all to go and pursue another serious relationship, even though looking back now, I mean, what is a saying? Hindsight is 20/20. I can, if I had paid even the slightest bit of attention to my body and how I felt and my anxiety about moving up there, I never would have gone. But again, it was insecurity and low self-esteem and wanting a relationship and needing that to define who I was. That drove everything.
Isn't that Murphy's Law, hey? You when you look back at things and you look back at your struggles, you're like, oh, if I would have known that, then I wouldn't have done it. But
totally.
Then it's you don't even think about it at that moment because it could be infatuation, could be again with this second relationship, the holding on factor that you didn't want to leave him because this is it.
Yeah.
As you said with the previous one. And
that the relationship was my worth.
Putting your happiness to the side.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I just didn't pay attention to that. Nothing. So off I go again to Edmonton to be in another relationship. And it did not take very long for me to spiral, because with my first boyfriend, I had experienced a little bit of depression.
Okay.
And then we broke up. I moved to Calgary and started doing things for myself, and that got better. The second time that I moved and left my life and my friends and everything, it took about 4 months for me to just spiral down to a really bad place of, being suicidal, being so depressed, and
anxiety.
Yeah. Everything, weight gain,
And that's a factor because of anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Well, I was dealing with it with food. That's the only
That's
tool I had. Yeah. Yeah. That's the only thing that made me feel better, because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. And I heard, especially when you move to a new town and you don't have anyone there that you know and things like that, then people actually turn to food and even have the weight gain because it becomes your friend.
That's right. Yeah. It made me feel better. It was the only thing that made me feel better. And I ate a lot. It was bad. But again, it's one of those things that I didn't know any better at the time. So after I had moved up to Edmonton in with my second boyfriend, it was about 6 months, and I came home from work one day and he sat me down, and we hadn't really had, serious conversations about our relationship or anything like that. And he sat me down and he was like, "This isn't working. We got to break up. I'm not happy. You're not happy. This is not good. You're not happy here." And he was right.
Yeah, exactly.
But in my head, I was so committed and needed a relationship that breaking up I hadn't even thought of.
So did it your unhappiness reflect to him?
Big time.
Greatly? Maybe you didn't know that it was reflecting on him?
I didn't.
He saw it?
I didn't. I had no idea how my attitude and my my words and my energy was being portrayed. I wasn't aware of any of that stuff. I was very unaware of how my actions and my attitude and my beliefs were being reflected. And so after the end of that, after that breakup...
Oh, wait, this is your aha moment.
Yes.
Right? Okay, we're going to take a short minute here for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to thank a sponsor, because without sponsors, EMTV wouldn't be possible. So we're actually going to thank Budget Blinds for serving Southwest Calgary and Cochrane. They did our window coverings that you see behind us. And so if you would like to renovate your home and things like that, then you can feel free to contact Dan and Jessica Martinez from Budget Blinds. They are the owners. And for information, you can visit budgetblinds.ca. And we also have another treat for you. So this is for our viewers. So we actually have a gift card to Starbucks, courtesy of Empower Media. And we are actually going to give it away during Laura's segment this evening, and you might be asking how you win. Well, you're going to have to tune in to the very end of the segment, because Laura is actually going to think of a question based on her segment that you'll have to answer. And I did tell her this before, so I didn't throw her under the bus. So she's going to think of a question based on her segment, so you guys have to keep tuning in and watching and supporting her. And the first person that can answer the question correctly at the very end of the segment in the comments below will win this gift card to Starbucks, courtesy of Empower Media. So, should be fun, because who doesn't like coffee? Okay, so back to you, Laura. So the aha moment. So tell me about it.
It was a long moment. I can't really I can't say it was one exact moment. Definitely, I remember that conversation that we had, and then I remember just needing to leave, right? So we lived together, and I had my cat there, and I thought, okay, I'm out of here, right? I just got to get out of here. So I packed a small suitcase, I grabbed my cat, put her in her carrier, and I left.
How long were you guys together?
1.5 years.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't as long as the other one.
Not as long. But I think it just felt more serious to me because I was older and, all that kind of stuff. Right. So I remember driving, and I only actually made it to Red Deer. My best friend lived in Red Deer at the time, and I was just crying so hard that I couldn't see the road. So I actually had to call her and say, just broke up. I can't make it to Calgary. Can I just pit stop in Red Deer and sleep? And then I continued on to Calgary. And that drive, I think, was...
You had time to think.
I had time, and it was like my whole life was just kind of like going through my mind. And I had actually started reading a self-help book. It was one self-help book that I picked up before the breakup.
Yeah.
It was Louise Hay.
Oh, yes,
You Can Heal Your Life. So I had been reading that because I knew that I needed help for the place that I was in, but I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll go to a book. That's the only thing I really knew to do. So I've gotten this book. I started reading this book, and a lot of what I had been reading was also playing over in my head. And basically it was, you know, you are responsible for what happens to you in your life. Of course, she says it much nicer than I do. But it's like, what's going on for you is being reflected out in your life and in your experiences.
Yeah.
So what has happened to you and what is happening to you and what's your attitude and what's your beliefs and what are you putting out and what are you getting back? And so I use that as like this for the whole experience of being broken up with, because all through, you know, my whole life had been wanting a relationship and wanting a commitment from a man and never ever getting it, never being able to get that.
Yeah.
And this was just more proof of that. It was just more of that. And I was like, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life, always having this pattern.
Yeah.
It was a very distinct pattern that kept happening to me. And reading this book, I was waking up to the idea that something, it's not that I was a bad person or I was doing things wrong, but something within me was causing this experience. And what was it? And what could I do about it? And what did I need to do about it?
Yeah. And so that relationship actually changed your life.
It did. It saved my life.
It saved your life.
It saved my life, and I've you know, had the benefit and the really nice experience of actually being able to tell him that, which was kind of cool, because I don't know many people that actually say that to their exes who broke their hearts, like, thank you for saving my life. But
It's probably like, what?
yeah, he wasn't sure how to take that at first, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's true, and I'm very, very grateful. Now, I mean, of course I wasn't at first, right? It takes time to get to that point. I think it was actually a couple of years before I actually realized what that experience did for me.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a breakup, so
Yeah.
like the emotional healing and
Yeah.
the trauma and everything like that, just even from your dad's passing
Yeah.
and then even to now and all that stuff, just the trauma that you experienced with the breakup, that was like the breaking point.
That's exactly it.
So
So it
you
wasn't
needed time to
just,
heal.
yeah, it wasn't, I wasn't just healing from the breakup. Thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of times I think people, they just focus on what they're going through now. But
Yeah.
what I realized is that it took me like 6 years to heal from that breakup. But I realized it's because I wasn't just healing from that breakup. I was healing from every single one before that.
Yeah.
And I was healing from every single crappy date I'd gone on. And every single time I liked a boy who didn't like me back in high school and elementary school, all the way back to my father's death, right? It was all of that plus the breakup.
And you even relate to yourself as Good Luck Chuck.
Yes. So, and I said this before we
Claim that, yeah.
started. I counted, and this started from my very first boyfriend in high school. There was 10 guys that I went out with, or, you know, even just kissed, or, you know, had a little thing with, whatever, who married the girl that they
After
started
you.
dating immediately after me. And so we talk about patterns. I mean, there's no way I could ignore that, because I realized this. I was looking at all of these guys getting married to the girls they were dating right after me. I was thinking they weren't ready for commitment. Oh, they weren't interested in me. They didn't want to commit. That pattern completely threw that theory right out the window, because it happened like 10 times. And I'm like, I think it's me. Shoot, it's me. Like, what the heck's going on here? I couldn't ignore it.
And how did you feel like after you see After you see all of those 10 guys just consecutively marrying the next girl after you, like, what was going through your mind?
It was very eye-opening.
That probably drove me crazy.
It did. At first, I was like, well, that's kind of weird, right? And then, you know, by like...
Coincidental.
No, oh, it's my age, whatever. And then, like, it just kept happening. But at this point, like, it happened a few times as I was also into my personal growth.
Yes, yeah.
So I was aware, I became a lot more aware of why it was actually happening. And I'm like, it's me. Like, I'm not ready for commitment. As badly as I want it from somebody else, I'm not actually in a place where I can have a healthy, committed relationship. I have work to do. And so it helped me realize that, but no, it sucked. Like, it just was just shitty.
It's like, okay, the first... may I remind you that we are live?
Oh, yeah. It was awful. It was not fun.
No, that's... Yeah, because the first couple times it's probably like, okay, sure, coincidental, whatever. Then it's like, okay, it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like after the 10th time.
Yeah.
Like up until the 10th time, and it's like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I did wonder that, like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
But the good thing is that I was also reading a lot of books and, like, started going to see, like, a spiritual counselor and realizing that it wasn't that something was wrong with me. There was beliefs that I had that were wrong. Like, I am not worthy of a committed relationship.
Gotcha.
I'm not worthy of somebody sticking around. I will always be rejected from
and
men.
that's probably why you kept holding on to the
That's
relationships.
Right. Yeah, even though they weren't good. Or just, if somebody was interested in me. Oh, okay, great. Let's get married.
Just like that.
Just like that. That was it. Okay, great. But now I'm like, okay, that's not actually a good way to do things.
By the way, you guys, if you have any questions for Laura, we actually can have a live Q&A. So if you have any questions about relationships, about advice, and whatever you'd like about Laura, can just feel free to comment your question below, and DJ will get it to me, okay? And then we can answer it on the spot in the flesh with Laura Smilski.
Put me on the spot.
Exactly. So now, how do you help, now that you've gone through your own struggles and you were able to find exactly what was wrong with yourself, how do you help other women?
I am a love and dating coach. So I realized a few years ago that I wanted to give back all that I had learned through all of my awful dating and relationship experiences. So I should mention now that I actually am in a very healthy, stable relationship, and we actually just got engaged on Saturday.
Congratulations.
I don't have my ring, but it's being resized. But to me, it's just this perfect, like...
This one you did get.
Yeah, but I mean, it took a lot of work to get me there. But, and that wasn't the goal, right, for me. Well, it was. I did want to get married, but there was a lot of other stuff that came with it as well. But I realized that I really had a lot to share. I have, a lot of stories and a lot of experiences when it comes to dating and rejection and abandonment, and how that's reflected in relationships and why these experiences can keep happening to women over and over again. And I, looked at women that I knew and saw it happening to them, and I thought, I want to be able to give back and help in some way. So I took actually a health coaching certification, which you had mentioned. And within that program, I was able to work with other coaches to sort of hone in on who I really wanted to work with and who I wanted to coach. And I realized that dating and relationships and single women were who I related to the most and who I actually had the most to give to. So now I work with single women and I coach them in self-awareness and self-esteem and give them tools that I didn't have when I first was sort of really frustrated with what was going on in my relationships. And it's very fulfilling to be able to be there for women and help them and guide them through their own growth and their own personal awareness so that they can have the relationship that they really, really want.
Yeah, self-love, because I read that on your website as well, and talk about when you learn to love yourself and accept yourself for who you are, then your relationships will follow, like true relationships will follow.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because actually DJ always told me this before when I was going through my own issues, that it's like if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else?
You can't. Yeah.
And I had such a hard time figuring that out for myself, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. No, whatever. Right?
What are you talking about?
Exactly. And then I would explain it to someone else, and they're like, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Because, and I'm like, but I do love him. And they're like, but do you love yourself? It's like, well, and it's like, but they were just like, no, that makes perfect sense. I'm like, you're crazy too. Like that. But then after, I don't know, a couple years or something of him continuously stating that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. It's a different concept though. Yeah. Right? Like, we're not taught that in school. Like, well, you'd better learn to love yourself so that you can have healthy relationships. And I'm like, okay, well, the book that Louise Hay book, like, should be in schools. Like, something like that should really be taught to kids, especially teenagers, so they sort of understand the idea of how it works. But what I kept reading and learning about and experiencing was that whatever you don't give to yourself, you don't have for somebody else. Yeah. Right? And people, I think, get the idea that self-love and giving to yourself first is selfish, but it's not. Yeah. It's like you have to...
And I think that was my issue.
Yeah, it sounds selfish, right? Like, I totally get it. If you're not quite sure what it's all about, it does sound selfish. Yeah. Don't worry about anybody else, just worry about yourself. That's not exactly what we're saying, though. Like, that's not the idea. The concept behind it is work on your side of the street. Own your stuff. Take responsibility for yourself and your own happiness, and then you're stable, right? And then, for the most part, you can be self-aware of your issues and when something comes up for you, and then you can communicate that better. Yeah. And that's what allows you to have the better relationships. It's not about being selfish. It's about being able to be open and vulnerable and communicate better.
I like that, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good tie-in with the communication.
Yeah.
That could be a strategy in itself. Because when you are self-aware of your own emotions and your own feelings and everything, then you'd be able to communicate better. Because
you can,
even when I had my own issues, I was... I couldn't even communicate them in person. I had to write them down and get them to read it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a really good way to start.
Yeah.
To start practicing opening up and being vulnerable, and even just reading that to someone can be really, really hard for some people.
Yeah, because I couldn't even be in the room when they would read it. And I would be the one writing it, like it's like a letter.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, wait till I leave the room, and then come talk to me about it.
Yeah, but that's good. Yeah, but that's exactly it. It's and realizing why is it hard for you to open up, or why was it?
Yeah.
And what are you afraid of when it comes to that? And then increasing awareness and working on that. And that is what allows you then to have the relationships that you're looking for. Because relationships are like, when they're going good, there's nothing else like it, right? There's nothing else like it. And when they're not going good, they have the power to just ruin everything, right? Like, doesn't matter what else is going good, at least for me. If my relationships aren't working, nothing is working.
Like, all hell broke loose and stuff,
Yeah. Doesn't matter if my job's going well. If my relationships aren't working, it's the end of the world.
And it's even all about manifestation, too, because when your relationships are not working, that's all you're focusing on.
That's right.
So then your work all of a sudden will be problematic for you, and then I don't know, even something as easy as the commute to work will be a problematic. Like, everything will.
That's right. Yeah, it just draws in more of that. Yeah, it draws in more of that experience. And you're right, what you focus on grows. So if you focus on how stressful your relationship is, how bad it is right now, and all that kind of stuff, then you start to see that more. But that's the beauty of also the other side. So when you start to heal some inner things that are going on for you, and you start to see better experiences in your relationship, you also see better things happening in all of the areas of your life.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, it doesn't actually matter where you start. Like for me, I actually started with my physical body, going to acupuncture, cleaning up my diet, exercising.
Oh, yes, you're even a yin yoga
yes.
teacher. You have a certification.
Excellent. I did take that, and I mean, because I still have experienced anxiety. So yin yoga has really helped me with, it's just another amazing tool that helps me focus inward and kind of quiet my mind. It's never silent ever, but it helps me work with myself, right, to improve my self-awareness and get me centered and get me to a place where I can communicate better and continue to be open. And then I have more to give. So that it's been a really amazing tool for me.
So you went from yoga instructor to health coaching to yoga instructor to love and dating coach.
Yeah.
Everything all ties in though.
It does. It's all
like, that's all completely holistic.
That's I actually, had the word holistic in my title for a while because I really, really strongly believe in that. All of the areas, even your finances. Yeah. Right? So when I was single and having trouble dating, I spent money I didn't have. I was in debt. Everything, right? And when you start to improve one area, then your feeling of self-worth increases, and then all of the other areas in your life reflect that. So you can start wherever you want. But I really enjoy helping women start with the relationships, but we also look at and talk about other areas because it is all related.
And where can we find you? Or where can they find you on the internet?
So my website, it is www.laurasmilski.com, so my full name. And I think that'll be on the Facebook so you can see the spelling. And I also have a Facebook page. So I think facebook.com/Laura Smilski Love Coaching.
Oh, cool. So
there's ways to reach out and get a hold of me there. And I have Instagram, so it's just my full name.
Okay. Nothing
fancy. No spaces or hyphens or underscores or anything like that. It's just my name. So it's pretty easy.
So when you were going through all your self-esteem issues, because a lot of people, even women especially, that go through those issues and they have trouble getting themselves out of it. Yeah. They take it's not even necessarily tools like pills and things. Did you, I want to say, self-heal yourself? Without any of those? Depressants or anything?
Yeah, so when I first had that relationship end, I was on medication for anxiety and depression. And I found more holistic methods, so I started going to acupuncture. Okay. And through acupuncture, I was able to come off of the medication. Yeah. Now I take Chinese herbs. They're natural plant herbs, and I take, vitamins, and I go to yoga. So I'm not just completely on my own, but I have more natural, holistic tools rather than medication. And I don't knock medication. I actually needed the medication at the time to get my head out of the really dark place that I was in. But when I was on it, I realized I'm not super sad and depressed, but I'm also not happy. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not okay with being in this state of limbo for the rest of my life. I want to be happy. If it means maybe I'm going to be sad again. Yeah. I want that range back. And so that was the reason that I decided to sort of come off medication. But I definitely didn't, do it all on my own. I had support. It just looked different. Yeah.
Interesting. And you actually, the last time that we met and chatted, You spoke about that you even went to an inner healing coach for 8 years.
Yes. Well, I'm still.
Oh, yes,
I'm
that's right.
still
You're
going.
with,
Yeah. So I started seeing an inner child counselor.
Oh, yes, inner child.
Yeah, which helped me go back to the traumatic events of my childhood and work on those. Some people don't like calling it your inner child, whatever. It's the wounds that happened when you were younger. Yeah. It's okay, you don't have to call it your inner child, but for me it works. But it's going back and looking at your experiences of when you were young and realizing how they followed you up into adulthood and how they're being reflected. So I really had to become aware of how the death of my father and then how my family dealt with it after was affecting me in my adult life. Yeah. And now, I mean, I even wrote not that long ago why I'm a huge fan of therapy, because it's been amazing for me, and the right kind of therapy. So for me, this, doing the work, going back and healing old patterns and things like that has been life-changing for me. So, and I still go because I believe we always grow, right? I'm always going to have something to be aware of or, work on. I mean, that might sound really daunting. I'm not saying there's always going to be something to work on.
True. It's so true.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not a perfect world.
Right.
We're all going to grow. We all grow in very different ways. It could be something as very simplistic, or it could be something more extraordinary or completely transforming and changing. But we're always growing every day. Yeah. That's even the saying that says you learn something new every day because you're always growing.
That's right. Yeah. And I like having the support from, the lady that I go see. She's fantastic, and it just kind of keeps me in check. Yeah. Right? And I I haven't needed to go back on medication, and I haven't needed to, go to extreme, well, I consider those maybe sort of extreme measures. Yeah. So it's kept me on a nice path of growth, and no, it hasn't always been fun. It's still a lot of work. Yeah. But I look at where I was versus where I am now, and I'm like,
it's helped.
There's no comparison.
Without any medication and all that stuff, which is awesome, because that can even lead to other problems. Yeah. Like addictions and stuff, because it's like you can't live without them. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's not, not to slam that. I was like, it's great that I am not feeling super dark, but I'm also not experiencing happiness. And for me, I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life kind of in that gray area. Yeah. I was like, ugh, okay. But it was hard. It was scary to go off of medication and to trust myself enough to say, okay, can I do this? Like, to have enough confidence. Yeah, exactly.
And belief in myself. It was a struggle. It was hard, but I had really good support, and I still do.
That's awesome, and that actually always helps.
It does.
It's more natural when you have that support.
Yeah.
Even someone going through cancer and whichever, it's the support and the positivity around you that actually keeps you going. Yeah, and that's, most of the work is inner work, but you've got to have someone, a group or a family member, a friend or a counselor, something to help you, along the way. I think that's really important. And that actually brings me to my next question. Do you have any advice for someone that isn't currently in that gray area, that they could be having problems finding a relationship, or they could be in a relationship that they are feeling stuck, or anything like that? What advice can you give them?
I would say, and I've said this, to a few people over the years, but just become curious about what is going on for you and about, the experiences that you're having, and start to maybe, look or ask for some signs or some signals for something different. So if you're single and you really want a relationship, but you keep having the same experience over and over again, maybe start questioning why. Get curious about what's happening to you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing if you're in a relationship that maybe you're not happy in. I mean, we talk, like, I can't speak to like an abusive relationship or anything like that. That's very serious and something different.
Yeah.
But if you're in a seemingly healthy relationship and you're not experiencing the connection that you would like to have with your partner, it's sort of getting curious as to what do I really want? What am I focusing on?
Yeah.
If I'm focusing on everything negative about this person, that's all I'm going to get. That's all I'm going to see and experience. Can I shift my perspective? I think that was huge for me. Shifting my perspective and being willing to look at things differently. So I would also say that would be some advice. Be willing to look at things differently. It's challenging sometimes, but if you're not willing to shift your perspective, things aren't going to shift, right? You're going to just see more of what you see.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to look at things a little bit differently, or
shift your
perspective, or to try something new, that sends a message that, hey, I'm ready for something different here. And it made
That's awesome.
Big difference for me, being willing to try something different.
Yeah. And actually, here's something interesting. Divorce, that it's very common nowadays.
Yeah.
So being a love coach, why do you think that is?
I've experienced this in my...
You're not.
Well,
but knock on wood, but...
Yeah, no, but I have had my fiance now, and I have had, some pretty serious things come up in our relationship. Yeah. And I was actually just talking about this the other day, and I think it's because I look at, for us, in our relationship, when there was a lot of, heaviness or things, it creates doubt. And you look at the relationship and you go, I'm not happy, so why am I here? And I think it's because we expect other people to be responsible for our happiness. And that was me for a long time. I expected the relationship to make me happy. And when it doesn't, you think, well, then it must not be the right relationship.
And you close yourself off.
Yeah, and you think, I'm never going to be happy here. But when you take responsibility for your own happiness, maybe that means not actually being in that relationship anymore. But I know for myself, every time I've ever thought that, I've had to really look at myself and go, where am I dropping the ball on myself? Where am I not supporting myself? Where am I not having fun? Where am I not really taking care of myself? And it's always me. It's not my partner. He is the mirror showing me that. And it's easier to blame him and go, you need to do this and you need to do that so that I can be happy. But it will never be enough. I have to look at what I need to do. Yeah. And I think that might have something to do with it. And
that all ties into, because we spoke about communication, so it's got to tie into it all too, because you don't want to express it, right? Because both parties won't think anything's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Unless somebody says something.
It's the blame game for both parties.
Right. Yeah. And it is easier. I've had that experience. It's so much easier to blame the other person for your misery. You didn't clean the bathroom. I asked you to clean the bathroom. Now I have to clean the bathroom. Now you've made my life hell, right? No, okay, is it true that he didn't clean the bathroom? Yeah, it's true. But does that mean I need to be miserable? Yeah, no. Yeah. And maybe I didn't express to him how important it was to me that he cleaned the bathroom, right? There's all kinds of things that go on, and perceptions and perspectives. Yeah. And a lot of times we can shift if we want it to be different. I think that has something to do with it too.
Yeah, because throughout, even my life, I've learned to pick my battles. Yeah. We've learned this... And we've heard this quite a few times at church and stuff, and it's pick your battles. Yeah. If there's something going on, just choose your battle and be done with it. Don't make a small fight turn into, or a small argument turn into a bigger fight. Yeah. because it's a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feeds into negativity.
Yeah, and not always needing to be right. Like, I've seen a lot of the friends even where they're competitive, right, in their relationships, and they will fight until they are right. And I'm like, is that what you want, or do you want a peaceful relationship? Like, and again, you have to take that with a grain of salt. If it's a big issue that is really important and it's actually a value of yours that you need upheld, that's different. But if it's something like, I don't know, no, I didn't talk to that friend last week. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Right? Like that bickering. It's like,
and that's why I was curious about that divorce question, because I spoke to a lady a while back that has been divorced a few times, and when I talked to her, she was going to be potentially a client. She goes, oh no, it was all. I was like, so how come you've been divorced a few times? And she blamed the other party. And she's like, I had nothing to do with it. So I was curious to get your perspective.
Yeah. Like I said, it's always, both people in the relationship.
It takes two.
That's right. Like, and you're bringing something into that, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant for you to look at your side of it. For me, it was not pleasant to face my weaknesses and my, what I was contributing to, 20 years of rejection from men. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was necessary for me to do that, to change it. And so for that lady that you were talking to, if she wants that to change, that experience, she will have some form of self-reflection to do.
Yeah. She needs to have her own moment
to figure out what's going on for her, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not about blaming herself and about doing something wrong. It's just about improving and increasing your awareness so that you can have a different experience. If you don't want a different experience, fine, don't change anything. Just keep doing what you're doing.
She's sworn off men.
Yeah.
She's sworn off relationships.
Yeah. But I'm guessing at some point she's not going to want that.
But that might help. She's an older lady, of course, but that might even help her, right? Because being in relationships for so many years and stuff, maybe she needs that time by herself. Yeah. To kind of reflect and personally grow from there.
I did that. I put myself on dating breaks for sure, because I wasn't ready. Yeah. I needed time by myself to figure my stuff out. And a lot of times you do need that. So I did that too. I was like, no, I have no business dating right now. I am not in a position to be in a healthy relationship. And I knew that. But I still wanted one, and I still felt lonely, and all that stuff.
But then the fear comes in the way, right?
Yeah.
Like the fear of rejection, as you said. It's like after all the relationships, and even after that good luck Chuck incident or good luck Laura incident.
Yeah, exactly.
all the fear kind of stands in the way afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always there.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, am I going to let that stop me? I really had to get to a point, and I remember this moment really clearly. I was walking home from work one day, and I remember, I still say mantras. I'm a fan of mantras and reprogramming. And I remember saying to myself, I'm ready for the responsibility of a relationship. I am ready for it. And I felt it very, very strongly. And it wasn't long after that I actually met Andre.
I was just gonna ask, and then you met your husband.
And then I met, my fiance Andre, and I had said to myself, I'm ready for this, and I meant it. I was like, whatever I need to do, whatever I need to look at myself, whatever I need to open up to, whatever I need to do, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to have the experience and to, in some instances, just slug it out, and suck it up.
Yeah.
And not need to be right all the time, and be willing to, admit when I'm being really difficult because I'm bloody difficult. Like, I'm a pain in the butt. I'll fully, like, I'm not ashamed of that. I'm a pain sometimes. I am.
And that's the key, right? To be open and be humble.
Yeah, and just be okay with that. I mean, sometimes I drive myself crazy. I can't imagine how crazy I must drive Andre sometimes. I just imagine. But
disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think being okay with that was really important for me, because I know I was, and this is what I've worked with clients on quite a bit, is the fear of appearing too needy, or the fear of appearing too clingy, or to this or to that. Like, that fear was really big for me, and sort of getting to a point where it was like, you know what? It's okay to want what I want. It's okay to want to talk to somebody every day. It's okay to want to have plans made, you know, for the weekends. It's okay to ask somebody, you know, what do you think about marriage? Do you want a family one day? Women get really, really terrified to ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? To ask for what they want.
Yeah.
They're afraid they're going to scare someone away.
The relationship, and then all of a sudden 2 seconds later, it's like, oh no, she must be thinking something that's too fast for me.
That's right. Yeah, but I learned it's the way that you ask that too, right? It's, you know, you can ask these things with confidence, or you can ask them with like, oh, so what do you think about marriage? Like, what do you think? And a guy's gonna kind of go like, what? Like,
we talked about it.
We just met. Like, but if you say, so can you tell me how you feel about marriage and what your values are when it comes to relationships? That's a very different way to put it. But
that's true, yeah.
You get to hear the guy's answer. What is his values?
And because of that answer from the get-go, it can be like, okay, whether it's going to work
That's
or not.
right.
Because if all of a sudden they're like, oh, I've sworn off marriage.
Yeah. Or I don't believe in labels. I remember hearing that a few times. Oh, labels. You just need a label because you're scared. I'm like, yep, that's right. So if you don't like labels, then we're not going to work.
Well, I mean, I met a couple that the girl really wanted to have a kid.
Yeah.
And I worked with her boyfriend at the time, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, and they got together, and she explained it to him. She's like, are you interested in having kids and stuff? And he said yes. But he regretted to inform her that he actually got a vasectomy at 19 because he didn't want kids. And she found out years later because she was wondering why she couldn't get pregnant. And then he ended up telling her, and then they broke up just like that because of that. And I said, that's where the communication comes in, because they were together for a while. They were together for a few years before he actually, because she's like, now I'm ready to try. But he kept pushing it, and she couldn't understand why. Yeah. And then she was wondering why she wasn't getting pregnant, and then he finally told her. And they were probably together at the time, maybe 4 years or something. Wow. They were together for a few years. And she stayed with him because she knew, like, they were going to get married and everything. And she stayed with him because of that fact.
Wow.
That's like, I guess I should be on.
That's just straight up, like, deceitful. Like, because she did ask, like,
she did.
Do you want more children? It's not like she was afraid to ask that question and just never mentioned it and assumed. Like, she asked, right? So that's really unfortunate. But I mean, I've had that experience, not that experience, but experiences where I wanted to know, you know, did they want to date more seriously, or me more seriously, or how did they feel about me? And being so terrified to ask that, that by the time I finally did ask it, I was so terrified that they could just like hear the fear in my voice. And it's insecurity. It was like huge insecurity.
So at Empower Media TV, we like to ask our guests one question. What empowers you?
Speaking my truth, for sure. Being vulnerable, and not speaking up for myself, but speaking my absolute truth, and sharing that no matter how hard it is, no matter how how I think it's going to affect somebody else,
Yeah.
you know. That has been the most empowering thing for me, is to actually speak and communicate my feelings and what's going on for me.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
They can't be truthful.
Yeah.
Or they can't speak the whole truth, you know,
Right.
whole truth but nothing but the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people have trouble doing it.
Yeah. And that, for me, that empowers me.
Excellent. So we're going to wrap up here pretty quick,
Yeah.
but do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers, Laura?
I don't think so. I just feel very grateful to be able to be here and to share this. And yeah,
Really cool story
Yeah.
about relationships. And
Thank
even
you.
now you're like engaged.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. So
Yes.
congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
And before we forget, because I always do, what question can we ask our viewers so they can win this fabulous gift card courtesy of Empower Media?
So I have it.
Yes.
Thank you for warning me that I was going to have to have this.
worries.
I mentioned a book that I read that helped me, that I was reading, that I think should be in maybe
Yes.
schools. So what was the name of the book, or who is the author?
How about both?
Okay. Name
Let's
of the
do
book
both.
and the author?
Yeah,
Because I did mention
it was
both.
together.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple times you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. So Laura did mention a book a few times in her segments. So whoever answers the question correctly in the comments below will win this amazing gift card, once again, courtesy of us. And yeah, so thank you so much, Laura, for
having
coming
me.
tonight. Very cool story. Like, I always like to talk about relationships.
So do
I'm a
I.
Relationship nut.
I love it.
I do. Like,
I love it.
but no, that's awesome. It's a really good. It's interesting the way to see your perspective, even though it's right smack dab in your face. Like self-awareness and self-love will help you in with your personal growth and with everything in your life, whether it's finances and career and whatever. But a lot of people sometimes just need to hear it. So thanks for sharing your message.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Once again, can you share your website where people can find you and your blog?
Yeah, so my blog is on my website. There's a page for it, and it's my full name, so laurasmilski.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So guys, if you want advice and want to connect with Laura regarding her love and dating coach services, contact her on her website, laurasmilski.com. Check out her blog. It's awesome. And take care, you guys, and stay tuned for our upcoming guests for next week. And once again, you're watching another segment of What's Your Story on EMTV, and my name is Lis Perez, and I'm your host. And once again, Laura Smilski, love and dating coach of the world.
Thank you.
So we will see you guys soon.
Bye.
Take care.
If you want to be a guest of Empower Media TV, it's easier than you think.
Yes, if you want to be a source of inspiration to the world and you have an amazing story to share, go on our website, empowermedia.ca, and click on Submit Your Story and fill out a brief questionnaire.
Then we'll get a hold of you and book a time to go for coffee and get to know you a little more. But in the meantime, don't forget to like this video, add your comments below, and share this video so other people can be empowered and inspired with today's story.
Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of What's Your Story on Empower Media TV. And tune in next week at Thursday night at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and be prepared to be inspired. Stay empowered.